recognize my Métis government.
Tonight, the Manitoba Metis Federation files a human rights complaint against the province.
We've been able to achieve those milestones working collectively, not only with our people.
The Montana First Nation in Alberta unveils a large solar farm.
Many of them would have been grown on Turtle Island for a long time.
And a seed sanctuary in Tyendinaga hopes to bring back a lost agricultural practice. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. There are mixed signals over the COVID-19 pandemic coming from different provinces today. Public health officials aren't ready to call it a second wave yet, saying there's still time to keep the case counts down amid an uptick in several regions.
I think we've learned a lot since the first wave, and we've made some significant improvements in the healthcare system, in our preparedness in terms of equipment and supplies, and even understanding of the virus that will allow us to manage this next stage.
Quebec added 292 cases, which is up from yesterday, while Prince Edward Island added an additional 2 infections, including an asymptomatic case and a child under the age of 10. But Ontario reported 251 cases of coronavirus today. That is down from the 313 cases reported yesterday. Canada's top doctor says multiple reported outbreaks have been linked to private gatherings like birthday parties and celebrations and backyard get-togethers. She's urging people to do what they can to curb the acceleration. Here's more from Dr. Teresa Tam.
The most important thing to know is that any gathering carries risks of transmitting the virus. With that said, there are some things that we can all do to reduce, but not eliminate the risk. The most important step hosts can take when having a gathering is to stick to their established contact bubbles. If you are thinking of hosting an event for people outside of your contacts bubble, ask yourself if you, someone in your household, or someone you are inviting are at high risk of developing complications from COVID-19.
Ontario has partnered with companies in the province to get 10,000 ventilators made to prepare for a possible second wave of COVID-19. The government is investing $2.5 million in one company to help make the machines.
Of this virus, that having enough ventilators, having enough of these life-saving devices, it's critical. It's the difference between being ready for the worst or not. And we saw in the spring that the global demand for these devices, it was impossible to get them. So we decided to call on our best and our brightest. We called on Ontario manufacturing giants.
Premier Doug Ford says having the ventilators made in Ontario will also support local workers and jobs. The Manitoba Metis Federation is accusing the provincial government of discriminating against them during the COVID-19 pandemic. In a new move, the Federation has filed a human rights complaint against the government and its top doctor. Brittany Hobson explains.
On September 11th, the Manitoba Metis Federation filed a complaint with Manitoba's Human Rights Commission. Directed at the province, the health minister, and Manitoba's top doctor, it alleges the MMF has been subjected to, in their words, systemic discrimination.
They don't want to recognize my Métis government. They don't want to give us any record that they recognize this as a Métis government representing our citizens. That's the problem Pallister faces, and that's the problem his government faces.
Sartran says the MMF was supposed to enter into a data sharing agreement with Manitoba months ago, but that is stalled. The province currently has one with the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. Chartrand added the agreement faltered after the province told the MMF it relies on self-identification during its health data collection, a move Chartrand doesn't agree with.
So I wouldn't have a record of that person if they're not registered with the Federation government. So we'd have no way of tracking that family, knowing what and how we're working with the family right now, how we can connect and bring a COVID strategy to them.
Right now, the MMF only tracks COVID cases through word of mouth. During a press conference Monday, both Health Minister Cameron Friesen and Dr. Brent Roussin responded to the MMF's complaint.
We asked them to participate with us. We reached out to encourage the development of an information sharing agreement. We have not heard back. So that door is open as soon as Mr. Chartrand would want to walk through it.
Certainly, I'm open to meet and to address any issues and collaborate moving forward.
Premier Brian Pallister fired back with some accusations of his own.
David Chartrand likes to sue people, and he's used to getting paid when he does it. What he's selling, we're not buying. We have too much respect for the Métis people of this province to try doing that. He should return his phone calls, he should return his emails, he should return his texts.
The MMF has a contentious relationship with Pallister. This is not the first war of words breaking out in media and courtrooms. Chartrand says the complaint isn't about suing anyone, and Pallister's response is misleading the public.
He's like a schoolyard bully right now, and it's not going to fly.
Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
We'd love to hear what you think about the ongoing feud between the MMF president and the Premier of Manitoba. Here's how you can continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. Find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptnnews. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest Indigenous news. And now to southern Nova Scotia, where non-Indigenous fishers took their frustrations to the wharf by protesting against Mi'kmaq harvesting lobster off-season. Mi'kmaq fish harvesters met up with the protesters, but police were on hand and the protest ended peacefully. The Supreme Court of Canada ruled in 1999 that the Mi'kmaq have a treaty right to hunt, gather, and fish for, quote, moderate livelihood. The term has not been defined, leading to long-standing tensions on both sides. Nunavut's Legislative Assembly gathered today for the first time since early March, although it looks very different on the Assembly floor. Nunavut postponed the spring session due to COVID-19, and COVID will still be the focus. As you see here, members are seated further apart than usual for social distancing. The biggest legislative issue is the $170 million in spending that happened when MLAs were away. Today, 2 new members were also sworn in. The session officially gets underway on Monday.
I, Craig Atangalak Simailak, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will duly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust reposed in me as member of the Legislative Assembly of Nunavut.
The Montana First Nation, about an hour south of Edmonton, has completed construction of a large solar farm. Once operational, the farm will help generate nearly $1 million per year in revenue for the community. APTN's Chris Stewart has more.
Today marks the proudest day of my 20-year political career here with Montana First Nation. Today, history is being made.
Bradley Rabbit is a former chief and current councillor of the Montana First Nation, south of Edmonton. He was instrumental in getting this 4.6 megawatt solar farm completed. This farm is big, one of the largest solar plants on reserve in Canada. Over 12,000 solar panels. Panels that will generate power. 100% of the power will be sold to the grid. It's expected to generate $800,000 in revenue each year.
We've been able to achieve those milestones working collectively, not only with our people, with the many service providers, the consultants, the governments of the day, to make it a truly an inspirational economic development initiative.
The $12 million project was paid for by an $8 million grant from the Alberta government and $1 million from the federal government. Montana will kick in the remaining $3 million. Vicki Weechie is the general manager of Montana's Green Arrow Corporation. It runs Montana's solar projects.
So at the time, the government of Alberta was very green. Lots of green energy project programming and grants were available, which we used, and we also combined it with First Nations employment and training granting from Alberta Services. So the human services to train the people, and then we use some of the green funding to do our bigger projects such as the farm.
Weechie says the income generated will go to infrastructure, including expanding into more solar projects.
We're already discussing off-reserve lands that we own. We're already discussing Site 2 and what this means for our community. So it's really a gift and a door opening to our future generations and those to come.
Testing begins on Halloween, with the plant going fully online on December 30th. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Montana First Nation.
The new president of the Canadian Bar Association is calling for diversity on federal court benches. We'll speak with Brad Regier after the break. Here's a look at Wednesday's weather forecast starting on the East Coast. Sunny and 15 for St. John's, sunny and 20 in Charlottetown. Rain in Nain with a high of 12, 14 for Cartwright. 22 in Montreal, showers, and 14 in Chibougamau. 25 under sunny skies for Toronto, partly cloudy, and 24 in Ottawa. Showers and 15 in Thunder Bay, 11 with rain in Sioux Lookout. 8 and sunny for Norway House, The Paw, and God's Lake. 13 in Winnipeg and Brandon, 11 in Barons River. 13 for Regina and Estevan, 12 for Saskatoon, 9 in La Ronge and Buffalo Narrows. Welcome back. The Canadian Bar Association is calling on the federal government to diversify its legal system. They want more Black, Indigenous, and people of color sitting on federal benches. Brad Regier was named the new president of the Canadian Bar Association earlier this month. He's the first Indigenous person to hold the position. He's a member of the Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation in Saskatchewan. We spoke with him earlier today. Brad, thanks for being with us. What would a more diversified group of judges mean for Indigenous peoples going through the justice system in Canada?
Well, I think the viewpoint is that by having a more diverse bench with more Indigenous judges, more Black judges, more judges from other visible and minorities, is that we're going to get a much broader perspective on the bench that actually reflects Canada's diversity. And listen, I know a lot of people on the bench from all levels, and I have the utmost respect for them. But I think I've said this before, that only an Indigenous person can bring that perspective to the bench. Only a Black judge can bring that perspective to the bench. Only judges from other racialized groups can bring those perspectives to the bench.
On behalf of the Bar Association, you've written a letter to the Prime Minister and Justice Minister David Lametti. Can you tell us a bit about what that letter said?
Well, the letter asks the government to recommit itself to put greater efforts into appointing judges from BIPOC, so Black, Indigenous, and people of color judges, appointing them to the bench. And I should add, I mean, I would also suggest that we also need to appoint judges who have disabilities to the bench. You know, we're asking for a greater effort to be put on terms of appointing judges. We cited some of their stats to them. I just looked at those stats a short time ago. In the 3 years of the records that we have, only 2 judges of Indigenous descent were appointed to superior courts in Canada. And only a few more than that who were of visible minorities. The vast majority who were appointed were Caucasian.
So how easy would it be for the country to fill some of these roles with Indigenous people?
Well, I think that there's a lot of qualified candidates out there. I do know that the process for applying to be a judge is very onerous. The application form is extremely lengthy. You have to provide written samples. But certainly I think maybe if there was a bit more push encouraging people to apply to the bench, seeking out those diverse communities and approaching them going, hey, we want to appoint people from your community and we need people to apply.
Are there any commitments from the government that make you hopeful that more Indigenous, Black, and people of color will be appointed to federal courts?
Well, the current government made its commitment in 2015. I haven't yet seen anything to say that they've backed off on that commitment, but I want to see that commitment implemented to a greater extent than it has been.
Brad Regier, President of the Canadian Bar Association, appreciate you joining us.
No problem. Thank you.
Sadly, summer is coming to an end, as you saw the leaves there in that story. But the start of fall also means the return of some of your APTN favorites. New episodes of APTN Investigates, Nation to Nation, In Focus, and Face to Face are now just 3 weeks away. Here's a look at what's coming up this season on Face to Face. Face to Face is set to return for its 7th season on Tuesday, October 6th. We'll kick off the new season with Anishinaabe writer, broadcaster, and the newly minted chair of the board of the Canada Council for the Arts, Jesse Wente.
There's this big reckoning happening in newsrooms right across Turtle Island, where all of this history is coming out and we're hearing about the treatment that so many people of color, Black and Indigenous people have suffered in these institutions. It's important that those of us that have been there for very long put our names to those efforts.
Award-winning Cree filmmaker Tasha Hubbard will also join us on the show this season to discuss her documentaries that have focused on racism and policing on the prairies.
My concern is the increased militarization of police and, you know, seeing their budgets and the purchase of tanks and body armor and all of these things, you know, that haven't made a difference, you know, in there being, you know, safety in the community.
Just a small sample of our guests coming up on this season of Face to Face, debuting October 6th, right after APTN National News. Can't wait for the new season. Going to look a little different with the pandemic still ongoing. Well, still to come, we're going to take you on a trip to a special garden in Mohawk territory. Stick around. Here's a look at the rest of your Wednesday weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. 12 for high level, 12 and showers in Fort McMurray. 16 in Edmonton, rain, and 19 for Lethbridge. Smoky for parts of BC again, 21 in Victoria and Vancouver. 14 in Fort Nelson, 18 for Prince George. 10 with rain in Old Crow, 15 in Whitehorse. 9 in Yellowknife, 14 with showers in Wrigley. 7 in Colville Lake, 0 with snow for Sax Harbor. Snow and 2 above in Baker Lake, snow and 4 for Arviette. -4 with a rain-snow mix in Resolute, 2 in Igloolik. Welcome back. Located in the heart of Tyendinaga Mohawk territory is a special vegetable garden, but they're not for eating just yet. Here's Annette Francis with that story.
This 14-acre lot is now home to the Gentege Seed Sanctuary Center. There's over 100 varieties of vegetables growing down there. While the plants themselves may be new, they come from heirloom seeds that can be dated as far back as the 1400s. It's a project that began with the help of Kate Henderson.
Many of them would have been grown on Turtle Island for a long time, for a lot longer than that. We just don't have the documentation to back that up yet.
Maybe shake a little bit more.
But Henderson said saving seeds is an agricultural practice that has been lost. That's why it was important to share them with Tyendinaga to keep them growing in the area. Janice Brandt is excited to be involved in the project. She has a passion for it because she grew up farming. She says they are fortunate to have the seeds handed down. It's their first full crop to grow on the land, and although the vegetables growing here look tasty, they're not for the table.
Most of our mission is concentrated on the production of the seed itself, so that then the seeds can be distributed and more people can start growing. And that actually helps the food system by making more foods available locally to people.
Seeds have always played a role in Mohawk culture and teachings. Keeping that tradition going is important to Nikki Otten. That's why she volunteers here.
A Haudenosaunee person, seeds comes from our creation story, right? Our first woman that fell from the sky brought with her seeds. And so in that teaching, it tells us that women are protectors of seeds and growers of seeds. And so I really wanted to be involved in that.
According to Brandt, some of the harvested seeds have already been distributed to community members. The hope is to ensure the Mohawk tradition of passing seeds down continues for future generations. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Tyendinaga, Mohawk Territory.
Very cool. Also cool, some modern technology is helping to highlight traditions and history that dates back thousands of years. Indigenous artists are using the social media app TikTok, which is designed for short videos, as a way to educate, and they are getting a lot of views. CTV brings us that story.
James Jones is doing what he loves, hoop dancing. He's done it for years at powwows across North America. But late one night in March, bored from being quarantined, he posted a video on TikTok of him hoop dancing to the hit song Blinding Lights.
I went to bed and I woke up and the video had like 1 million views and had like 100,000 followers like overnight. So it was just, it was crazy. Like it just blew up.
Now Jones, who is known as Notorious Cree online, has over 1.1 million followers and is a well-known creator, posting dozens and dozens of short videos.
I always try to put a little humor into my videos, so like I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people seem to like it.
Besides his humor, Jones uses the platform to showcase Indigenous culture.
Educating, from our point of view, because a lot of times like our stories are told, but they're not told by Indigenous people.
Even though Jones has an enormous amount of followers, he says his bank account isn't quite as enormous.
I wish. Yeah, no, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people, I do get a lot of comments like that, people thinking that I'm living in a mansion and I'm rich and stuff like that, but no, I'm definitely not rich.
But Jones says he's happy that his TikTok videos are enriching the lives of people all over the world.
I just have fun and I just educate whatever I want to educate on. If I want to dance, I'll dance. If I want to make a funny video, I'll make a funny video. And if people like it, that's awesome.
Graham Neal, CTV News, Edmonton.
Well, it's official. Skunks do understand Cree. Russell Bull opened his door to find a stinky visitor in his Edmonton, Alberta yard a couple of weeks ago. As you can see, the skunk knows that means get lost or go away, and he does just that. Striped Prowler was even polite enough not to spray. Tapashi, that's go away in Michif. And that's your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For much more, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great night.